Well, hello and welcome to this episode of In the Growth Space. My name is David McGlennon, and I'm really grateful that you're joining me here today. I'm really excited for this episode because I get to share a fresh growth story with you from someone who's actually been on the podcast before. But before we get into that conversation and before I tell you about our guest today, I want to share with you that our Inner Circle Summit registration is now open. And if you've been listening for any length of time, you know that I hold an annual summit here in the Pittsburgh area because our Inner Circle groups meet virtually throughout the year. And really, this gives us an opportunity to gather together in person. And we actually open up the summit to the public as well because, honestly, we just want to share the amazing benefits of having an Inner Circle group and really be able to allow others to experience that as well. There will be leaders from all kinds of industries and at every level of leadership. And so this year, we're going to really change up how we're running the day. Too often we don't take time to really slow down and think about our goals and think about our challenges and take time to hear new ways of being. So this year, the Inner Circle Summit is going to be a day for you to get away, eat some great food, meet some amazing leaders from quite literally all around the world. And our theme this year is being well and leading well. Because honestly, if we're not being well, we're not going to be able to lead well. Now, we'll put the link to register in the show notes, but if you go to davidmcglennon.com/Inner Circle Summit 2022, you'll be able to learn all about it and get registered. All right, so for today's guest, I have always said here on the podcast, our goal is to help listeners really move forward with their growth in whatever area of life they're focused on. And some of our listeners are focused on their business and their team. Some are focused on their career, and even some are focused on their personal financial life or their spiritual life. Every episode, we probably give you the opportunity to think into and grow in any one of those areas. And today's guest is, as I mentioned, a return guest, and her name is Kamille Thomas. Kamille is a retired Air Force veteran, and she's also the author of 2 books. She's an editor and a writer, and as a matter of fact, the story that I've asked her to share today revolves around her becoming an author. And so I don't want to waste any more time with the intro. So Kamille, welcome to the show.
Well, hey, Kamille, welcome to the podcast. I'm so grateful to have you back again. This is your second time here.
It is, and I'm excited as well. I had fun the first time, and I'm sure this will be the same.
Yeah, I think so too. This podcast is really about helping to share people's journeys of growth. I know I focus a lot on personal growth and business growth and team growth. And today's conversation, I think, probably is going to be centered a lot more around personal growth from what I'm gathering. But tell us. So first of all, you were on a trip this summer, and it seems to me like this year has been a really big year for growth for you and a journey of growth. And so, tell me a little bit about that journey of growth and the trip that you went on.
Absolutely. So yes, it has been a tremendous year of growth for me in so many different ways, been pulled and, had to really trust myself, trust my mentors, trust my coaches, that they saw something in me that maybe I didn't see myself at first, and tap into some of the potential that I had. And as we talked about before, I recently retired from the Air Force. So I did 25 years in the Air Force and decided that I wasn't going to go get a good, government job or a corporate job, but I was going to step out on faith and I was going to do my thing.
Yeah.
And what that was speaking, training, and coaching, which I was really, really good at. And then something shifted. And
Hmm.
so I went into writing. I began writing. And this trip came about, and I'll kind of do a shortcut here.
Yeah.
But a trip came about because in late 2020, right before I was, right after my, I guess, retirement ceremony, but right before official retirement, a friend of mine called me and said, "Hey, do you know any ghostwriters?" And so I was
How
like,
about that?
no, but I can find out a few. I was going to go on Fiverr. I'll be honest. I was going to go on Fiverr. And so we got to talking. And then she goes, um, well, God told me you can write my book.
Oh,
And I
wow.
said, well, God didn't tell me. I was like,
Yeah.
hold on. So she says,
Yeah.
well, I know you can. And just pray about it and let me know,
Hmm.
if you'll do it. But I know you can do it. I said, why would you trust me with your life story?
Hmm.
She said, well, I know I had done two anthologies before. And she said, and I see your Facebook posts all the time and you write so
Uh,
well. And I really believe you can write my book.
hmm.
So I felt a resounding yes on the inside.
Yeah.
And I called her back the next day and I said, you know what? The answer is yes. And so she's like, great. So she and I began working together and writing her book, her story. And just a little bit of background, she's a former refugee from South Sudan. So she came over
Okay.
here in the 90s and she went through a lot of cultural norms here in the United States
Hmm.
amongst getting married at 14. Her
Oh,
family arranged a marriage for her here in America at 14.
wow.
And so she fought her cultural norms and traditions to say, this is not what I want. But of course, a 14-year-old girl, in a new
Yeah.
country with her family, the tradition very strong, didn't go over very well. So she suffered a lot of family violence, domestic violence.
Hmm.
She found a way to get out of that marriage, but
Hmm.
it cost her in terms of she had to marry someone else, became a teen mom, and
Oh,
fought for
wow.
her education. In the meantime, she didn't want to be a stay-at-home mom and just, do the same things that her parents did. And so she put herself through school, high school. She
Hmm.
graduated, put herself through nursing school, found
Wow.
a way to get her student loans paid off by joining the Army.
Yeah.
And she was actually the first South Sudanese commissioned officer, female commissioned officer in the United States Army.
Wow.
And so she went, and did her thing. And then she went to war, went to Afghanistan, suffered an injury there, a brain injury.
Hmm.
And it caused a lot of issues, as well as she was going through relationship issues and such. Making it very short, she ended up getting out of the Army. They medically retired her because of her
Okay.
injuries.
Sure.
And then she decided to do something different. She was
Hmm.
going through a divorce, got out of debt, did the Dave Ramsey. So she was showcased on there,
Hmm.
ended up doing Good Morning America, CBS, all this stuff about her debt free journey while we're doing this book.
Wow.
And so we launched the book May 1st of 2021. And it was an amazing time, sales were good and everything. But then we decided to do, actually, someone who read it said, will you guys come to East Africa? We'll sponsor you to come to South Sudan. And once
Wow.
that was out, there was different organizations, usually student unions, South Sudanese communities in different countries that said, hey, if you go there, can you come here as well? So
Hmm.
we scheduled a 6 country, 7 city book tour, East African book tour,
Oh my
to
gosh.
promote her book, and it's called I Am My Mother's Wildest Dream.
Ah,
And so it did so well, and it just caught on like wildfire. And that's how I became a part of it because, of course, I'm a part writer and editor, and
yeah.
we're very good friends. This journey has brought us closer in so many ways that I can't even
Hmm.
imagine. I could never
Hmm.
imagine, and it afforded me the opportunity to go on this tour with her
Hmm.
and speak to the people and hear the stories and the cries and see
Hmm.
what they were actually going through. And yeah, so it was very, very, I feel overwhelmingly blessed to be able to
Wow.
have been a part of this project.
That's really, really cool, Camille. Had you been to Africa before?
No.
Oh wow! So that in and of itself, going to the continent would have been just an amazing experience in and of itself. But let alone going and hearing the stories and being a part of this book tour was got to be just amazing. Wow, that's pretty neat.
Absolutely. The book was I Am My Mother's Wildest Dream. But in saying yes to this project, I was able to live out my own dream. and going to Africa and experiencing it the way that I did. It's one thing to just go on vacation,
Right.
but to really be able to immerse yourself in the culture or really talk to the people and hear, that was a totally different experience, and one that I've prayed to do for a long time, long time.
That's amazing. How long were you there? Because I think you were there for what, 6 weeks or?
6 weeks, a little over 6 weeks.
Yeah,
Yes.
gosh. Yeah, so total immersion is kind of like the way to experience anything, right? So you were able to really get yourself immersed in the culture and in the with the people, and I think that's amazing. I, I want to go back though for just a second because there was you talked about making a change when your friend asked you to write the book, and you went from being a coach and a trainer and a speaker to essentially saying yourself, I'm a writer. And you know as well as I do, anything we say after I am, is our identity. And so how did you make that switch?
It was difficult because I still didn't see myself as a writer. I've
Mm-hmm.
always written programs, curriculum, speeches, all that stuff while I was in the military. But I
Mm-hmm.
just chalked it up as a part of my job, my
Uh-huh.
extra, something to give back to the military. I didn't have to do it, but I would do it, and I would do it well. I'll just say I'll
Yeah.
do it well.
Yeah.
And so my background, college background in psychology and human resources, a lot of papers, lots of papers. So I wrote a lot, but I never looked at it as something that I could do as a profession. So after I wrote this book, actually I was transitioning. Like I said, I had finally made the official retirement, date. And I was on a Zoom with Mike Kim, who is marketing,
Yeah.
strategist, expert, branding expert. And I saw him the way he was taking people's stories in 5 minutes and creating these stories. And I'm like, I do
Mm.
that all the time, just, in my mind.
Yeah.
And he was launching his book, You Are the Brand. And I just took that because I wanted to win that vision retreat. So I
Yeah.
took that book and I was creating all kinds of stuff and doing the spirit of opulence with the You Are the Brand
Yes.
or whatever. And I didn't win. Didn't read the rules and I didn't win.
I didn't
So
read the
long story
rules.
short, because we're, team ambassadors for the Empowered Living community, we were afforded the opportunity to have a mastermind with him
Mm-hmm.
one on one. So it was like 12 or 13 of us, something like that, maybe 16. And I came on late. But he was like, I know time's almost up, but I'm going to give you guys a few more minutes if you want. I'm here as long as you want. So I began asking questions about You Are the Brand because everybody's like, oh, we know you have some questions. I said, yes.
Yeah.
And he asked me what I did and what was making me money because I told him I was transitioning. So he said, what is making you money? And I said, well, nothing really. I don't really have an income other than my pension. And he said, well, what has made you money? More money speaking. I said, well, I wrote a book and I made some pretty good money from that. And so he goes, well, then write. And I
Mm.
was like, but
Simple
I'm
as
really
that.
a speaker, trainer, and coach. That's what I've been doing for years, and I'm
Yeah.
really good at it. He goes, but that's not where the money is. Your gifts basically will show you, whatever it is that you're making money.
Hmm.
And so he said, you're much like me. I can see that. If you'll commit to writing for 2 to 3 years, I promise you. He was like, and he said something to me, become a collaborator, not a competitor.
I
He said,
love
there's
that.
so many speaker trainers and coaches out there. But if you can help somebody get what they want, we've all heard it, then they'll
Yeah.
help you. They'll invite you on the stage
Right.
to speak because you still have that skill.
Mm.
And so again, I said, in my mind, I don't pray about it. I don't know about this. I'm pray about it. But yes. And so I talked to Paul, who is my other coach, and Paul
Yeah.
agreed. And he put me to the test and said, if you think you're good, give me something.
Mm.
And I did.
Wow.
And after that, things just completely took off. It was their confidence in me that
Uh,
really helped me to tap into. They challenged me with a couple of things
sure.
to tap into my potential and really say, "Am I gifted?" And Paul said, I said I have writer's block. He said, "Do you think you're gifted?" I said,
Hmm.
"Yeah." He said, "Where do you think you got that gift from?" I didn't say it just like that. I thought about it for a
Yeah.
minute. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said, "Where do you think you got that gift from?" I said, "From God." So you're just going to throw it back in his face and tell him you don't want it. And I'm like, wait, no,
Wait,
no,
wait, wait, wait. Yeah. I could just hear
that's
Paul
not what
saying
I
that
meant,
too. Yeah.
So he said, you have 24 hours to give me, something, and I'll be waiting. And I think it was 24 hours and 3 minutes. but I did it.
Uh,
I did it. And his response and the response of some other people really lit a fire in me that says,
mm-hmm.
okay, because at the time the book was doing well, it was
Yeah.
circulating, but it was, how books do.
Yeah.
And so, but this gave me another level of confidence. And so I listened to those two people. I
Mm-hmm.
trusted them because honestly, I had nothing to lose. I had no
Yeah.
job. My pension covered my house and all my bills, and I had saved up a little bit of money, while I was in the military. So I was okay.
Sure.
I wasn't pressed to have a job. I had paid off my debt. So it really gave me the flexibility to not jump into something out of desperation,
Mm-hmm.
but to really find out what I was good at.
Yeah.
And
That's
it was
good.
easier for me without all of the strain of that,
Mm-hmm.
finances and things like that, um, to be able to listen to them and act on it.
Yeah.
And so that's how that transition happened.
There's so many lessons there, and I hope for those of you who are watching or are listening can pick up on a couple of things that I just want to point out, because Kamille, you did a couple of things that I think are really key to any growth journey, and that is first and foremost, you surrounded yourself with people who you could rely on and help speak into your life, and then also they were able to see things that you couldn't see yourself. And I think that a lot of us forget that we need other people to see what we don't see and help believe in us when we don't believe in ourselves yet. I know that I had that myself as well. And I think that most, especially emerging leaders, need to realize that they need to surround themselves with people who see what they don't see and can believe in them before they believe in themselves. Because I think those are the two things that I heard in that story that really set you off on your own growth journey.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know if this will be my life if I didn't have the people around me that, because all the rest of the people that I grew up with, and even in the military, the next logical step after this is weird to say this, but after you retire is to get that good government job,
Yeah,
get into the
sure.
system, get a contracting job. And it's not really a popular thing to do to step out on your own, something, I did the same job. I was aircraft maintenance for 25 years.
Wow.
I could have got jobs in a lot of places. I did
Yeah.
resilience for a long time and I had job opportunities and offers there. And it took everything in me to take a chance on myself and
Mm,
say, I don't care what they're saying. I feel a pull to do something different. It may not make sense to any because everybody's like, girl, what are you doing? Like,
yeah,
do you
yeah.
even get paid? Do you? And I'm like, yeah, I hope, you know.
I'm
Um,
planning on it.
I plan on it, one
Yeah.
day. But and it took so much for
Mm,
me to step out and
mm-hmm.
take that chance, take a chance on myself and also to be patient with the process.
Yeah.
Um, that because it was a year long journey that I didn't really have a job or a title
Yeah.
or whatever. I was kind of
Yeah.
trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. And
Yeah.
so yeah, so I had to be
Well,
patient with that process and I had to remember that, I guess I get it in a way I never have before, but everything worth having is worth the wait.
yeah. Gosh,
And it
that's
was a
so good.
process I had to go through.
Mm-hmm.
And if I would have done it prematurely, I don't think the outcome would have been the same.
Mm-hmm.
I had to connect with certain people. I had to be in alignment with my purpose. I had to build confidence. I had to build skills. And that wasn't an overnight thing. I could
Right.
have messed it up if I got impatient with the process and said,
Mm.
I'm just going to go get this job or I'm going to do whatever. To look back and think of all the things that have transpired over the years and what I would have missed. Oh my
Mm.
goodness. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah.
So
Well, in that time when you were actually going through the process, because nobody likes to talk about that. That's the hard part, right? So when you're going through the process of figuring things out. What was that like? Because you had to have an element of self discipline, you had to have an element of trying things and working things out. I guess just tell us a little bit about like what that was like.
Absolutely. It was difficult at times, but like you said, I surrounded myself with people who were on the same growth journey.
Mm,
We may have been at different levels, but we're on the same trajectory.
yeah.
And that was so important because so many people reached back and was like, we see something in you. Like, don't give up, don't quit, don't, when
Hmm.
I was frustrated, there were people that just called and said, I'm feeling something, let me pray with you.
I love it.
You have what it takes. Don't let anybody tell you. And there were so many people that told me that. Like
Mm,
they really
it's good.
poured into me. And it's a community that is not jealous. There's no jealous spirits. There no
Hmm.
trying to sabotage and tear you down. It was nothing but pure love. And I think that that carried me through. It really
Yeah.
did. Because as I was transitioning, I realized that although I was a good writer, in this part of the transition, although I was a good writer, I was not formally trained.
Yeah.
And so, what do I need to know to be better at my game?
Mm,
So, I took, some money, I invested in some programs, I took courses online. I bought a bunch of books, marketing books, branding books, writing books. I have this little book, it's called the Little Red Writing Book.
yes. Yes.
To make sure that the product that I gave my clients was the best that I can give them. And
Yeah.
that it wasn't just because there was a success with one book that I thought I was just an expert and I could write to everything. That's
Yeah.
not how it happened.
Hmm.
So I had to do a lot of investing. And
Yeah.
I had to do a lot of investing in coaching because at times, I won't lie, my confidence waned
Sure.
because this was something totally new. How do I convince people that I can do this?
Hmm.
Then I was doing websites as well. So I took some time and I learned different programs and how to work them. And I looked at messaging and I looked at all of these things. So while I didn't have a job, I was really a full time student of my coaches. I was a full time student of different thought leaders. I was a
Mm,
full time student in the industry that I was working towards, becoming better in. So I didn't have a lot of idle time.
yeah.
I took that time and I immersed myself in learning the trade and the industry that I was, aspiring to go into. And
Yeah.
it was difficult at times.
Yeah.
And
I'm
I wanted to
sure.
give up at times, but really having people that pulled me through, they didn't even know it a lot of times, but it would be one word where I'm just like, okay, I'm done. Like, this is just not for me. I can go in and do what I know to do that I've been
Yeah.
doing for years. I know it like the back of my hand, but there was that thing in my gut too that says, no, you
Hmm.
can't go back. You can't go
Yeah.
back. I'm taking you
Yeah.
in another direction and those doors will be open. And then somebody would come and confirm that for me. And I'm like,
Mm.
okay, I hear you. I hear you. So,
Yeah. Well, that's so key. I think in this process of changing, of developing, of learning, you have to do a couple of things that you did, and that is invest. You have to invest in your learning. You have to invest in coaching, and you have to invest in community because the coaching helps to pull out of you what maybe you're not aware of at the moment. And that community then helps to build you up and to continue to support you when you're feeling, that I call it being discombobulated. It's like I just don't feel like I'm anywhere. I can't get my footing. And I think that those several things that you did were really key to growth and to being who you are today and that transformation process. And I just love that. I love that story. That's amazing.
yeah, it was great. And the investment, that was a scary thing. I had
Sure.
never invested as much money as I have over the last year in
Mm,
any program or myself
yeah.
and without a job.
Yeah.
So everybody's like, how in the world can you afford this? And I was like, I don't know. It just seems like when I invest in it, money just comes. I don't know.
Comes.
People, I mean,
Yeah.
like it was just coming and I never missed a meal. I never missed a bill,
Mm,
my house or anything like that. never couldn't do anything or go on a trip or fill up my gas tank or take care of my
Yeah.
daughters or anything. I never missed a beat. And I
Amazing.
was like, I don't know, but every
Yeah.
time I do, it comes back to me. And so that investment, though, I have in turn over the last, year, um, that investment has paid dividends,
Mm-hmm. Oh,
dividends in my
yeah.
life, and not just financially, but financially too. I've gotten back what I've invested and some, and but it has paid me back in ways that I never could have imagined in
Mm,
personal growth. I'm
mm,
not the same person I was just a year ago. I'm
yeah.
still Kamille, I
Yeah.
still like
Yeah.
things and all that. But my thought process, the way I deal with people, the way I
Mm-hmm.
talk to people,
Yeah.
the way I take chances, not just risks or whatever, but I take chances, how I speak things into existence, knowing that I can create things. And
Yeah.
on this tour, I tell you everything that if I've never manifested anything before, and I have,
Yeah.
on this tour, me and my friend, she's of the same mindset. Everything we asked for came to us.
Really.
From meeting people to going places to wanting things. We would sit out on the balcony and just talk about all the plans that we would have. And we would get a phone call within minutes or hours saying,
Wow.
hey, we want to do this. And I'm like, OMG. Like. So we're looking at
Yeah.
each other like, this is really happening. And
Amazing.
so it created another belief that I do have the power to co create my life.
Love that. Mm.
And and to see it unfolding day after day after day, and even still,
Mm-hmm.
it's done something to me that I don't want to go back. I don't want to go
That's
back.
that is so cool too. It's the I don't want to go back to the old me. I want to keep moving forward. And you said something, I think it was before we started recording, but you said somebody, I think it was your mom, maybe even said, you're not the same person. And you have transformed. And I like, what did she see? If she shared that with you, like, what has she seen in that transformation? Like, how are you different?
Yes, it was my mom and several other friends actually in the community. She's like, I saw a transformation happening
Hmm.
over the internet from the pictures and the videos, and she was like, you have this different inner glow about you. And that's what I
Wow.
heard from everybody, like, you're glowing differently.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, I can tell something shifted in you. She was like,
Yeah.
the way that you were handling yourself, the things that you were doing, she was like, it was just a totally different look in your eye. And she was like, you look the happiest you've ever
Hmm.
been. You looked
Wow.
at peace. She was like, and then there was something, she said, we saw it unfolding. And that's what people kept
Hmm.
saying. We saw it unfolding. And I'm like, I was, they're like,
Yeah.
nope, we saw from post to post to post
Hmm.
that something was different, that you were growing in a different way. And I
Wow.
was like, hmm. And then I thought about it, and it was the personal growth in
Yeah.
me. My perspective was changed. My
Mm-hmm.
eyes were open. I was seeing things that maybe I had a preconceived idea about, and I
Yeah.
saw it differently. And I'm like,
Very cool.
Mm, nope. It's not what I thought. It's not what majority of people think. I see something else going on here.
Yeah.
And I just saw the beauty. And I before I went over there, let me say this. I didn't want to go with any preconceived ideas. What I asked God for was, I said, show me what you want me to see.
Hmm.
Show me what I need to see.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times I think that I saw past the obvious,
Hmm.
and was able to see the beauty even in something like poverty,
Yeah. Yeah.
and really see the people for who they
Hmm.
were, not just a situation.
Yeah.
And that just really drew me to them.
Hmm.
And, I just said, poverty is poverty everywhere. This is something that came to me while I was there. Poverty is poverty everywhere. You know,
Yeah.
we like to
Yeah.
glamorize our poverty while
Sure.
we
Yeah.
just, really kind of like, oh, look at them. We're
Yeah.
a first world country, they're a third world country, yet we have the same problems. In the end,
Right.
who are we really to talk about someone else in that
Yeah.
way,
So
you
true.
know?
Yeah. So
And so
true.
the other thing that came to me while I was there was that Aid without mindset change and skill building creates dependency and poverty.
Wow, that is profound.
And I saw that.
Hmm.
We create this handout mentality. We put these things in place while we're not giving them the tools that they need to create on their own,
Mm-hmm.
to build their confidence and their skills using the things that they have. Innovation and creativity is so important over there. But we don't give that to them. We give them
Mm.
handouts. And then we say, oh,
Yeah.
we did so much for these people. Well, you're actually doing more harm
Yeah.
in the long
Sure.
run than good, because now the nation can no longer stand on itself because all it knows is dependency. And then you wonder
Yeah.
why it's taking so long for them to get there,
Yeah.
because you're not giving them what they need. You're giving what they really need. You're giving them what you think they need, which is food or whatever, which they need that
Yeah.
too. But in addition, there's a whole nother side that has to be developed, and
Yeah.
we're not doing a good job of that.
So we have to be able to help them to change their mindset and their thinking, their way of thinking, so that they can then help themselves and grow themselves. And I mean, in a lot of ways, that's what happened to you. You changed your mindset. So then, and it's really more about, I think, living from the inside out rather than from the external circumstances in, because so often we think that we want something, so that means we've got to do something, so that we can, be something and have something. But we've got to flip that around. We've got to be something first. It's a be, do, have. And I'm kind of curious. I have a sense, but my guess is that the people that you met probably had an internal joy despite their poverty that was probably remarkable. And I'm just guessing based on kind of what I saw on your posts and just what I sense. I'm just kind of curious if that's what you saw too.
Absolutely. I'm gonna
Mm,
tell you a little story.
yeah.
Over there are kids, and we used to be those kids when I was growing up, so whatever. But it's little boys on the side of the road. And they had on the little clothes, and it's muddy out there, all the red clay and dirt and all that stuff. But it had rained, and so there was a puddle on the side of
Okay.
the road. And they had buckets, and they would go to the puddle and they would fill up their buckets. And they had these rags and stuff, and people would come and bring their motorcycles, and they were washing these motorcycles with this puddle water,
Oh
and they
man.
were drying them, and those things were sparkling. And those little boys, 3, 4, 5 years old, were able to earn money to take home to do it, but they were laughing and happy and dancing in the process. And
Right.
people weren't taking advantage of. They were giving the boys the money that they earned.
Sure.
And so we see it like that all the time. Oh, poor them. But they
Mm,
are really building character. They're
yeah.
learning how to make money on their own using the resources that they have. I saw
Mm-hmm.
people without wheelchairs,
Mm.
and they created these mobile vehicles. I'll call them vehicles,
Sure. Yeah.
that were like um, wheelchairs. And, they would use a bicycle thing if they had one hand, and they would use that. And it
Wow.
was just crazy, the stuff that I saw, how innovative they were with what they
Yeah.
had, and how majority of people were happy, even in
Mm.
their current circumstance. Now that's not everybody, but
Sure.
these are the things that I saw, that there's still
Yeah.
beauty
Mm-hmm.
in those people. There's beauty in poverty. There's beauty everywhere we look if we choose to look for it, and we
Yeah.
can capitalize on that. Those little
Mm-hmm.
kids that have that spark, let's teach them another skill. If you're working that hard, that young,
Yeah.
let me give you something else. You have the drive, the determination already,
Yeah.
characters being built. Let's take that and do something else. But yes, it was. I saw so much beauty even in that, and
That's
they were so happy, and
that's
they're so
amazing.
giving and they will give you the last piece of rice they have,
Wow.
and don't try to refuse it. Take it, because
Mm.
they're such hospitable people. And it
Wow.
was just beautiful. It was so beautiful.
So much to learn, I think, from from that experience. If you were to categorize a theme of the change that happened over that 6 week period while you were over in Africa, and you experienced, what would that theme be? And how has it kind of changed the way you're living right now?
So Mike Leitner gave me this yesterday, or
Oh, neat.
yesterday or the day before, Monday. And as I was talking to him about it, he said, "Ooh, the title of your book is going to be Sweeping Change."
Uh,
And I had another title, but I'm going to combine them or whatever. But her story, I'm going to go back to my friend Nigel. Her name is Nigel Tongik. Her story, her honesty and openness in her story created this sound, this buzz in ways people had never talked about
hmm.
their child marriages, the traumas, the violence, the um, dowry systems,
Mm-hmm.
and then the other side of it was she told her story coming from the eyes or through the lens of a South Sudanese woman. Our biggest audiences were South Sudanese men.
Really?
Inadvertently, by telling that story, it exposed the other side of what was going on. And although the men were benefiting from a patriarchal society, they too were being forced into marriages. They too were losing
Really?
girlfriends and potential mates because they did not have the money to
Hmm.
pay the dowry for their wives. And they still have older men, women. There's a lot of things that go on over there.
Hmm.
But and not to say they're any worse than ours, they're different. But they would have other people who could afford it, and
Okay.
the families would arrange these marriages, and they were being largely affected, and that's trauma. They're also a
Yeah.
war-torn country. It's the newest country in the world, 11 years old.
Incredible.
And they've gone through wars, and we look at it like it's such bad, but we went through several wars even in our
Right.
own country in the infancy of this country.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's to be expected. But the people there now, they were born in war, they grew up in war, they're still having issues. And so it highlighted the compounding trauma that
Hmm.
the entire country and its people communities all over the world have experienced. And
Yeah.
so it was really this roar that
Hmm.
happened,
Hmm.
and people stood up. And I remember one event, women typically don't say anything, they sit in the background, they just kind of
Okay.
let the men take it. And the youth and the women stood up and they said, "You guys had your time. It's time for me. It's time for you to listen to this generation and what our issues are. It's time for you to hear us women because we have something to say. We will not give you the mic." And they didn't. And I was like, oh.
Wow.
So it was this roar that happened all over East Africa as a
Wow.
result of her telling her truth, just
Yeah.
being honest. And everybody says, and that's my story as well. That's why it's called the
Mm.
I Am Nyatonyik Foundation,
Yeah.
because we realized it was no longer just her story, but she was so many other people as well. And so
Yeah.
all of them are dealing with the same issues. She was just bold and courageous enough to open up and talk about it
Mm-hmm.
publicly,
Mm-hmm.
airing her dirty laundry and
Yeah.
knowing that she was going to be judged and criticized and everything. And so, but that gave other people the boldness to do the same. So now we have a
Mm.
lot of emerging writers who are also telling their stories, men
How
and women,
cool.
as a result. So yeah.
Wow. And all of that began when you said, "Yes, I will write your book. I will write your story." That
Yes.
I'm gonna cry, man. Don't do that. Woo! Wow.
Yes.
That's so cool. And I think that's so powerful when we say yes to our dream, when we say yes to our giftings, when we say yes to the things that God put us on the earth to do. Look what can happen. I mean, you can change a nation just by one yes.
One yes. And David, that was the a big thing. You know, every time we asked, when I told you we would sit in our room or on the balcony, and every time we would ask something, the phone would ring or somebody would say something, I looked at her one day and I said, you know what? It's as if God has been waiting on us to ask and to say yes. Like he's putting all these things and he just wanted us to say yes. He
Mm,
wanted us to put a demand on him, Matthew
yeah.
7:7, ask, seek, knock. And
Yeah.
he's waiting for us to do these things so that he can bless us, but we're just too
Wow.
scared. And so I
Yeah.
told her the other day, we were on the phone, and I said, all these things that we thought were so crazy. I said, when I look at them now, they've actually happened and they're actually not crazy at all.
Not at
And
all.
you couldn't tell me a year ago that this would be what was happening, that you can change a nation by book,
That's amazing.
and change
Yeah.
laws. They actually, two of the governors, um, implemented laws that eliminated child marriage while we were
Mm,
there. Well, one while we were there and one just after we left as a result of some of this stuff. And
wow.
so you couldn't tell me that that would happen. And so she says, let's get crazier. And I said, yes,
Yes. You said yes
yes.
again. Oh, I
Let's
love
get
it.
crazier. So and
Oh,
we did,
gosh.
and things are still happening. Some things I can't talk about right now, but
Yeah.
OMG,
Amazing.
just the power of yes.
That's probably what this episode is going to be called, The Power of Yes, because, in a lot of ways, when we say yes to our dreams, when we say yes to our God given giftings, we're unleashing a power, a co creation power that we don't even know how strong that is and how big that is. And I hope those of you who are listening and watching are feeling the emotion that I'm feeling and are inspired too by Kamille's story and by her yes, because I think that too many of us have been saying no to our dreams. We've been saying no because we're afraid. We've been saying no because we're scared, and we don't know what we don't know, and we don't know the beauty, the things that we can change, the world that we can change by just saying yes. And so I hope you're inspired by this conversation, as inspired as I am. I don't get too emotional on these conversations too often, but this is an amazing and powerful conversation, and I'm very very moved, and I'm so excited, Kamille, that you said yes. I'm so glad and grateful that you said yes, and I'm grateful that you said yes to come back on here and share your story, because I know that you're going to inspire and move other people to say yes to their dreams, and I'm grateful for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's been an honor and a pleasure, and I appreciate you having me on a second time. And I'm on my way back again in the next couple of weeks.
Are you?
So
I didn't know that. That's
yeah,
awesome. Oh my
I haven't
gosh.
told many people, but I finally
Yeah.
got the okay. And so I'm going back over there to do some more work
Oh,
and
fantastic.
to really see where else we can help out and
Yeah.
in with this foundation what we can do for the other people. So yeah, I'll
Yeah.
be out of here in about a good 3-4 weeks.
Nice, nice. Well, tell everybody how they can get to know this nonprofit, this foundation that you've put together and you're supporting. Tell everybody how to get in touch with that.
Yes, so it's called the I Am Nya Tongik Foundation. Again, after my friend, her name is Nigel Tongik Deloitte. And so we are really advocating for women's rights over there, girl child education.
Hmm.
She provides and partnered with BAMC Hospital before a number. She's also a nurse by trade. So partnered with a lot of different organizations to provide free, no cost mental health counseling, family counseling, trauma counseling. Also, we do scholarships for youth in East Africa and diaspora who can't afford, to get their education, but to help them out. So we do
Okay.
scholarships that way as well. Um, what else? There's so much going on. So,
Yeah,
she has an
that's
online
good.
training platform as well, where she does preventative training for them, all kinds of different things that they may not have access to. And there's quite a few people that come on, thousands of people that are on that page. And it's called the I Am Nyatongi page. And so we will be coming out her website, www.iamnyatonyik.com. And we'll have our donation page up there for the foundation. It's based out of Texas, 501c3
Awesome.
organization. And Yeah, so we're excited for what we're going to be able to do for all of these young folks, not just the
Mm.
women, I mean, not just the girls, even though girl child education is super important. We
Yeah.
realize that educating girls educates, will progress a nation.
Yeah.
But it's also the women so that they can help those young people. It's
Mm.
hard when you go home, kids have homework, parents can't read.
Yeah, sure.
91% of the female population over there is illiterate, and we're
Mm.
really trying to change that through advocating for literacy and in the youth and even in the women as well. So
Mm.
we will be launching a fundraiser here very, very soon to help with the
Awesome.
literacy, to build some women's centers and youth centers, libraries, and things like that. So we could use all the support that we can get. It's the youngest nation and they need a lot of help, and I'm here for it. So
I love that, Kamille.
yeah.
So we will make sure that we have links to all of that in our show notes. So if you want to be able to participate and get involved, we'll have links to those websites and those pages, because we want to make sure that we allow everybody who's listening to support you and everything that you're working on. One other quick thing. So are you taking projects for writing? And if so, how can people get in touch with you? Because I know that that's something that people will want to know as well.
Yes. Yes. So I am taking writing projects.
Okay.
This I'm pretty much booked until the end of November. And then I'll take new projects after that. But my website is called Aspire, Aspire, the number two, growhigher.com. I'm Kamille Thomas on Facebook. It's Kamille and Thomas. But Aspire to Grow Higher is my website. You can contact me there. You can book a call. You can schedule a meeting and the whole nine. And yeah, so all of my writing is on that page. It's called I Write Right. It's my press kit. So if you go in there,
That's
you'll be able to
awesome.
find me. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, Kamille, thank you for sharing today. Thank you for just sharing your journey. And I just say thank you too for saying yes, because you've inspired me. I mean, I really am inspired. And yeah, I don't know where this is going to go, but boy, I'm really just enthralled by your story. So thanks for sharing it.
Thank you again for allowing me the opportunity to do so. It was a very transformative experience. And like you said, I hope somebody's inspired to go live out their dream as well. So it can
Right on.
happen.
Absolutely.
I hope this story of growth was as impactful for you as it was for me. You know, when the words came out of my mouth that it was the power of Kamille's yes that created a roar across the nation of South Sudan, I just knew that that was going to be of this episode. And saying yes to a dream can have a ripple effect across the world. And I want to just highlight a couple of things that I heard Kamille say that I thought was really important to remember as we all go through our own personal growth journey. She said this phrase, she said, it was difficult and I wanted to quit. How often do we want to quit when life gets difficult, when our growth gets difficult? But she kept pushing through because she said that people around her pulled her through. She said, people around me pulled me through. And then she became a different Kamille. She said people were saying that I'm not the same Kamille. I thought that was really impactful and powerful as well. The other thing that she said that I think is really important for us to remember, and that is that this realization that she can create anything. She has the power to co-create. And I think those of us who do believe in God, I believe that God is just waiting for us to co-create with him. And in her words, he's waiting for us to say yes. and I thought that through this process, it was really cool to be able to hear her say that as she saw things over in Africa, that her perspective changed. And so I guess I just want to ask you, what are you waiting to say yes to? And, just deep down, if you're really, really honest with yourself, what do you know that you need to say yes to? I want to encourage you to do what Kamille did.
She invested in coaching. She also invested in community, and she invested in co-creating her future. I want to encourage you to do the exact same thing. Invest in yourself. Invest in coaching. Invest in community. Invest in co-creating your future. Keep growing, my friends, and keep saying yes to your dream. And until next time, be well.